Hello and
Hello.
welcome to the Screen Chronicles. I'm El Stevo.
I'm Colby.
Awesome.
Welcome back to another episode. Today is going to be a little bit of a mini episode as Steve and I break down our top 10 movies of the past decade.
And we haven't seen every movie, so don't be getting butthurt if you're like, why isn't
my favorite movie on that list?
my favorite movie on there? Just listen to these and then watch them all because we guarantee
yeah.
So we're each going to talk about our top 10 movies that we've seen that we think are the best from our own subjective point of view. And we might get into a little spoiler territory as we're doing it.
All right, we'll warn you.
We'll warn you if something.
That's the other thing I was thinking, Steve. We might spoil movies for each other in this.
Ooh.
So we'll have to talk about that.
All right, yeah. So if I say something then and I'll let you know then. If you let me know if you haven't seen it or if you want to see it and you're like, don't spoil this for me.
Right.
All right. So we're gonna go top 10 movies.
We'll count.
Each one of us is going to our top 10. So
we'll start with 10 and get down 20. To 1. Yes.
Yeah. So we're gonna.
Well, I gotta think that some of them overlap.
Yeah.
I gotta think. So yeah.
So how's our setup going to be?
So we're going to start with 10 and work down to 1, and then we're going to talk about our top 3 disappointments or worst movies we've seen this decade at the end.
Awesome.
So we'll go back and forth. And so Steve, if you want to start.
Sure thing. So I'll start off. My number 10 is Deadpool.
Oh, okay.
2016, directed by Tim Miller, and stars Ryan Reynolds.
Yes.
I freaking love this movie. What's your number?
I watched this with you guys in the apartment for the first time with you and Josh.
Yeah.
And that movie blew my mind. It did not make my top 10.
I did not. No,
it was an honorable mention. It was on my list, and I had like 20 movies on the list, so I had to really kind of nitpick. It probably deserves to be somewhere in there, but I had to give it the axe this time. Deadpool blew my mind. That movie is awesome.
Yeah.
I've never seen a superhero movie like it. As funny as that one is, I really didn't know what to expect. So
yeah, had you seen some Marvel movies, like some of the MCU movies before this, right?
Yeah. Before that, I'd really only seen. We're talking probably like 3 years ago now when I saw this, right?
So, yeah, I think so. Yeah, two or three.
Before that, I'd really only seen like Iron Man and like the first Captain America. I think the first 3 Iron Man I had seen. And then since I moved in with you guys, I ended up watching like all the Marvel movies, with the exception of like the X-Men stuff. But yeah, Deadpool was actually one of the first we watched, and even though that wasn't part of the MCU, that was kind of what started getting me into like more of those superhero movies for Marvel, for sure. Yeah.
That was a fun night when we watched that. I think we watched.
That was a lot of fun.
Spider-Man after that, and I don't know. It was a good night. I remember that when we all watched it.
Yeah, I don't think I'd ever laughed so hard in a long time.
It's hilarious.
Yeah. So good pick.
Yeah.
My top 10, my number 10 pick has got to be The Hobbit: Desolation of Smaug.
Ooh.
By Peter Jackson, of course, the one and only. It was the sequel to the first Hobbit film, which was also almost on par with the Desolation of Smaug, but I think Desolation of Smaug has the edge a little bit. Starring Martin Freeman as Bilbo Baggins. Of course, Ian McKellen comes back and plays Gandalf like he did in Lord of the Rings. And then one of my favorite actors, Benedict Cumberbatch, actually plays Smaug the dragon.
Oh,
and have you ever seen the footage of him filming that scene?
Yeah, the motion capture that he's like doing for the dragon.
So when you see the movie, here's this this gigantic CGI dragon that looked really awesome, by the way. And there's this awesome voice It's kind of creepy. He's trying to find Bilbo Baggins, who's hiding in his lair, and then come to find out, I didn't realize at the time that was Benedict Cumberbatch. And then I found that him filming it, not only did he do the voice, but he actually like got down on all fours and like crawled around this mat. And they had like a motion capture on his face, so that with the dragon, they kind of could make the dragon's facial features more humanistic, based on how Benedict Cumberbatch actually moved his mouth, which was really cool to see on the big screen.
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool I can do that stuff now. I think a lot of it is still hand animated from what I understand, because you can't, a human face still doesn't perfectly match a dragon.
No, it can't. It can't.
Yeah, just dragons look different. If you just look at the scientific evidence, I mean, it's dragons evolved over here, humans,
yeah,
but
they don't share a common ancestor.
Yeah, we might. So might be a branch back.
Well, maybe, yeah.
But
a long time ago, but
yeah. But anyway, though, I think they still they could still at least use it for reference when they're doing the dragon, and it shows. I mean, that's probably my favorite out of the Hobbit movies.
You like that one too?
The Desolation of Smaug.
Yes.
And
which, by the way, came out in 2013. I don't know if I said that. Because the Unexpected Journey was great. And
that's the first one.
Journey was the first one that came out in 2012. It was great, and it ended with like the dragon's eye opening, and I think we were just so excited to see the dragon finally. And I think they nailed it. And then they kind of leave us with a cliffhanger at the end of the Desolation of Smaug when he is flying, and like the music cuts out, and he's like, "I am fire, I am death." It's so cool.
Yeah, there's no music. It's just him.
And then Ed Sheeran. I think Ed Sheeran comes in at the end of that, and is it? Oh no, is it Ed Sheeran at the end?
I think it is.
It is. Yeah, I See Fire. He plays that song. Man, credit scene, and it was it so good?
Yeah, that's
crushed it.
I kind of liked the first Hobbit, and then, but it still wasn't Lord of the Rings for me. I always thought that all like the first Lord of the Ring movies were kind of a bit slower at the beginning, because they really set up the characters, they set up the story, and it's always a little bit slower. I'd say like the first half of those movies, like Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, I would say it was kind of slow at the beginning. Mm-hmm. And I think The Hobbit's the same way, but I know I loved it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And is that then, I guess, your favorite out of that trilogy then?
Out of that trilogy, yeah, absolutely. The Desolation of Smaug was definitely great. And I'll be honest with you, the movie that came after that, Battle of the Five Armies, it did not make my top 3 most disappointing list, but it was very close to making that list, because I mean, the first two movies were so good. They didn't really have much of a storyline to like continue, like a story arc for the third movie. They just kind of had to wrap up the story arc that had happened in the first 2 movies with this big battle, which was pretty sweet. But it wasn't as captivating as the first couple.
Yeah, there wasn't any like emotional investment for me in the last one. When you're watching Return of the King,
right.
Like they've got to destroy the ring. They've got to, Frodo and Sam got to survive. Aragorn's got to be king. Right. It's like there's so many things that still need to be checked off. Right. And this one, it's like we need to kill that one white ogre and get out fight the armies, and like
exactly.
And it's like a 3-hour or close to it movie, I think, right?
Is the third one 3 hours?
I don't know. It felt really long when I was watching it.
Yeah. So that one, it was probably 4th on my top disappointing movie list. But yeah, so there was my number 10. So you want to move to number 9, Steve?
Yeah, I'll just mention real quick. None of the Hobbits made my top 10. Ooh. Since you did. Ooh. But I agree. That's my favorite out of those 3 movies.
Okay.
All right. So I'll move on to my 9. And this is one of my favorite movies of all time. Mad Max Fury Road came out in 2015. It was directed by George Miller. He wrote it, and it stars Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron.
Yeah.
and it
Tom
is
Hardy's great, by the way.
It is a crazy
A lot of
ride.
respect to Tom Hardy. Yeah, no, I saw that one. I'd never seen Mad Max before that, though.
I had seen a couple of the old ones, but they were I mean, the first one is so boring. The first original Mad Max is so boring. The second one, there's like maybe like 10 lines of dialogue in it, and it's all like action and like visual story.
Yeah.
And in this one, I mean, George Miller, who wrote and directed the old Mad Maxes, and he did this one. I think he like got a case of trying to make movies for his grandkids, because he was making like Babe the Pig and other like kids movies, and then he returned to form with this movie, and it was just sick. I mean, the story of it is Tom Hardy's Mad Max. He's this loner in this like post-apocalyptic world, and he meets Charlie Theron from this city, and they're on this run from the people trying to find this good place. Turns out it's not there.
There's like a guy playing guitar on top of a truck.
Yeah. So I thought you were gonna love this movie. When I saw this movie,
I thought it was actually okay.
Yeah. Well, I saw this in college. This and Deadpool. I remember I saw them both when I was in undergrad at Teal. And like I was watching these movies like multiple times, like over and over again, because I thought they were so good. But like this one too, I remember when I met you and I got to know you more, I was like, man, Colby's got to love Mad Max. It's got all this like crazy like rock album imagery.
It does.
Like,
it does. I like the imagery of it. I'm not like a big fan of a lot of like car chase things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's why like I like the Fast and Furious movies, but I don't love them like everybody else. I've never really been into like super fast car chases and stuff like that. Yeah. And that's a lot of Mad Max is.
It literally is a car chase the entire time.
So I think that's part of the reason.
There's hand to hand. There's jumping. There's a lot more to it, and it's a lot of practical effects. Meaning they don't use computers to do it. There's a lot of stuntmen doing things. There's a lot of real machines and contraptions doing all this crazy stuff. It's a crazy movie. I
remember I went to go see it. I went to see it in the theaters with my buddy Nuri.
Oh, you did? And you still like it? Did it make your list?
Did Mad Max make my list?
Yeah.
No, it did not make my list.
How? After seeing it in theaters. Oh man, I wish I saw it in theaters.
Well, I think I didn't really like. Nuri had seen like all the Mad Max stuff. He was into it, and he absolutely loved the movie. And I remember walking out thinking like it was good, but not like Nuri did. Nuri like was like all about it, you know. I think I remember him having a similar reaction to you just had like love it, but no, I'm happy that you like it that much. I'll say that.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time, best action movies of all time, in my opinion.
Yeah, it makes number 9 on the top decade list, Steve.
There's a lot above it. There's a lot above it.
All right.
What's your 9?
Oh, you're gonna love this one.
Okay.
You're gonna love it. Insidious Chapter 2.
Oh.
Yeah.
No.
You still need to watch that.
No.
So the Insidious franchise is, for anybody who doesn't know, Steve hates scary movies.
Yes.
And I rather enjoy them. So Insidious has been my favorite scary movie franchise. And I actually wrote a song about it with my band Damn Bonnet, and made a music video kind of inspired by the Insidious movies. Me and my buddy Ethan, who was the drummer of Damn Bonnet.
What's the name of the song?
The Further. So that's kind of the premise of Insidious, is that there are some people who sort of have this ability to go into another dimension when they sleep. And this is another dimension called the Further. And it's like they kind of like walk into this dimension as they're sleeping. And there's all these souls there that have lived and died and have not been able to go to heaven or another afterlife. So there's like a lot of like bad people there, a lot of bad spirits, right? And so when the kid's sleeping in this movie, in the first movie, the bad spirits can like try to find a way back to his body, and in the real world they can come back. Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh yeah, you'd love it. You would
Is this
love it.
is this
So
is this the thing you showed me with the tiptoe
Yeah.
through the window?
Yeah, it is.
Oh my
Did I show you that?
yes.
Oh, I
it's
mean,
creepy as hell.
so this movie, these scary movies actually made it hard for me to sleep a little bit.
Yeah, that I remember when you showed me that scene, it made me hard to sleep. I only saw that scene.
Which doesn't happen to me very easily. So anyway, but here's the thing: as scary as those movies are, what I loved about it was the storyline was amazing. So all these things happen in the first Insidious movie, where there's certain doors will open on their own or something like that, and you don't know why. The second movie kind of like goes back and shows what's actually happening, and it's like super mind blowing.
So it's got a good
So-
story besides
I think-
being this horror scary thing.
Exactly. So I would like if you took like all the jump scares out and the intense stuff out, I still think you'd have a good movie. Which is why I want you to watch it. I want you
Maybe
to watch
sometime
one,
then,
two.
you'll have to be there though.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that's the thing. We'll have to meet up again to do that one
Yes.
because I don't want to be alone
Yeah.
to watch it.
Well,
Tay
I'll
doesn't
tell
like
you
scary
this.
movies either.
I'll tell you this. That's the only scary movie that made my list. So
Oh, okay. Only
I
horror movie.
won't. Yes. So I won't.
And you said that was Insidious 2?
Yeah. So it's actually, I don't want to discount. You can't have Insidious 2 without Insidious Chapter 1.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're pretty much, one without the other is not as good. But Chapter 2 is when all this stuff is revealed and your mind gets blown. And it's like, what? Like that it wasn't a ghost. It was, it's cool. I don't want to say anything else because I want you to watch it.
Okay. Well, that did not make my top 10.
Oh no? I'm so surprised.
Also, is this part of The Conjuring? Is that
No.
the same as Conjuring?
No, it's
I always
not.
hear people talk about the Conjuring universe. That's not the same thing?
No, but those movies are also really good.
Okay. Do you want to move on to 8?
Yes, I do.
So my number 8 is 2017's Wonder Woman, directed by Patty Jenkins, written by Alan Heinberg and Zack Snyder, and it stars Gal Gadot and Chris Pine. Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, Chris Pine as Steve. And I have to say, when I saw the trailer for this movie when it's coming out,
Yes.
and I was like, that looks like it's gonna be a sick DC movie. And DC has been
which
kind
hadn't
of
happened since the Dark Knight trilogy.
DC has been kind of disappointing me. Man of Steel wasn't terrible, but I was disappointed. Batman vs Superman was just shit, and so Wonder Woman and then what was the other one? Suicide Squad was just complete dog shit for me. No offense to anyone who likes any of those movies. I just didn't like them. So then when Wonder Woman came out, I saw the trailer and shows her going through the trenches and across no man's land in World War One. I was like, man, that looks like it's gonna be sick. And watching the movie, sometimes I know sometimes movies don't live up to the hype of the trailer, or they don't seem to fit the tone that you thought there was gonna be. But I thought this did. It was awesome. Gal Gadot, I thought, I was like, she's too skinny to be
Gal
Wonder
Gadot was
Woman,
great.
but she killed it. She killed it.
Yeah.
And I watched it.
She's a great Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
That movie was awesome, and I watched it. I think with you guys too.
Yeah, we watched that together.
Oh, I thought it was a super fun movie.
It's fun. It's epic too. I think a lot of superhero movies they try and get rid of too many epic movies or epic scenes now, or emotional, powerful scenes. They try and they're just trying to throw a joke in now, is what I think. The MCU's kind of learned, and this movie has the humor, heart, all that. And
Yeah, it's
never
got
tries
everything,
to belittle anything.
I think that's a great pick.
Yeah.
I think it's a great pick. It didn't make my top 10, but it's a great pick.
Yeah.
I did think about it though. It was like, oh, that was good. I just compared to the other movies that are on my list, it wasn't for me. It didn't hit me as hard as some of the others, but it was definitely a movie I've probably seen 2 or 3 times now and have enjoyed every time I've watched it.
I really liked it. It was, again, it's one of my favorite superhero movies.
Yeah.
It's a good standalone movie. It's good. It was good kind of getting you hyped for Justice League, even though that didn't deliver very well.
Well,
but,
yeah, and she's going to have another movie coming out soon.
yeah,
So.
and next one, 1984, I think, is coming out soon. And
yes, so that should be good.
I really liked watching it because I went with my girlfriend to see it. I think the rest of my family was there too, but I was sitting next to her, and she really liked it.
My girlfriend loved that movie.
It was fun it was fun for me to enjoy. It was fun to experience with her.
Yeah,
she really liked it. It was a good time.
Absolutely.
And it's not. Is it on your list? Did you say?
It's not on my list.
Okay. So then, what is your 8?
Right. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Oh,
yes.
Very nice.
Yeah, I'm wrapping up the Harry Potter movie franchise. And a lot of the Harry Potter movies probably would be on this list, but this was the last one that came out in 2011. So I think Part 1 came out in 2009 when I looked.
2010.
It was 2010.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't as good as Part 2 though, to me.
I agree.
So Part 2, I remember crying at the end of the movie because it was like, this is the last Harry Potter movie that's actually Harry Potter. I mean, now they have Fantastic Beasts. And I was with my whole family, my mom, dad, and sister. We all went to the theater to see it. It was very emotional at the end because it was like, man, like how many years have we invested in all these Harry Potter movies, coming out, and the books, I've read the books multiple times. And they just did a great job bringing the Battle of Hogwarts to life. The reveal of, spoiler alert for those who haven't seen it, the reveal of Snape. The way they did that cinematically was beautiful. I thought it was really cool.
It was perfect how they did it.
Yeah. So just recently we watched them with my girlfriend, introduced her to the Harry Potter series. She absolutely loved them. And and then we actually just recently went to Universal Orlando, to the Harry Potter world there, and I went with her right after she watched the movies. And it's pretty cool to go when you're actually a fan of Harry Potter to the Harry Potter world there. It like feels so real when you're there. It's super cool.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so definitely made my list for sure. Daniel Radcliffe just killed it. Emma Watson always killed it.
Oh man, they all.
Alan Rickman as Snape. I mean, everyone is just perfect. So
I heard Alan Rickman knew like the whole plot of Snape from J.K. Rowling, like told him.
I heard this too because when they started filming the first movie, the last book hadn't been written yet.
Yeah, but it was all in her head.
What always makes me wonder, like, did she know from day one when she started writing the Sorcerer's Stone, or I think it was originally the Philosopher's Stone? Did she know who he was going to be, or was that something that she like had the idea 4 books in? You know what I mean? It just all lines up so perfectly, and there's like no plot holes that she had to have it in her head. I think
she's just story-wise real intelligent woman.
Very intelligent, yeah.
I'll say that this made my list, so I won't say too much more about it.
Okay.
Anything else you have to say then about that?
No.
Okay. No. You're gonna move on to 7?
Yes, let's move on to 7.
All right. So my 7 is 2017's Logan.
Oh, okay.
Logan. So that's an X-Men movie about Wolverine as he's an old man. It's directed and co-written by James Mangold. Stars Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, Patrick Stewart, and
I do want to say I have not seen Logan. And you have told me multiple times that I'm going to love this movie when I watch it. Have not gotten into the X-Men universe.
That's the thing is, and the X-Men universe is so convoluted now. It's got so many movies and all that. I grew up, a nerd, so I was watching all the X-Men, all the superhero movies as I was growing up. I saw them. So like this movie was just like, the just the final conclusion to one of the best character, I'd say, from the series.
Yeah.
Everyone's favorite was Wolverine, and
Everybody says
Hugh
this movie's
Jackman.
incredible. So I guess what I'm going to ask is don't ruin anything, because I do want to.
No,
I do plan on watching this.
I won't spoil this then, but I mean, this movie is it's so good because one, it's rated R. It doesn't just do it though to be bloody, but luckily, Deadpool, which is one of the reasons I put Deadpool on the list. Deadpool came out. It was the first like rated R superhero movie that made a ton of money. And so then Fox was like, well, then we'll make Logan. It can be rated R because now we can see that if we make it rated R, it'll make money. And so they just let, the director get creative and really explore and make it. I mean, it was perfect. It was another one of those movies like how Sam with Wonder Woman.
So you're saying that movie was perfect?
Yes.
Okay.
I do. I mean, yeah. I mean, you could find flaws in anything, but I mean, as far as what it does justice to Hugh Jackman's, character as Wolverine. I mean, like it's about Wolverine. He's older. He's not doing as well. All the X-Men aren't there anymore, and he's dealing with all these things, trying to finally get some peace. And it's just, I mean, it's beautiful. Even if it wasn't a comic book movie resting on the X-Men's shoulders, I think this would be a really good movie.
Cool.
But I still think you should see.
So what do I need to watch before I see that?
I would watch the first two X-Men movies before this, at least.
Ugh.
At least the first two.
Are they good?
Yeah. The second one's really good. The first one doesn't hold up as well today. They've got like leather suits and stuff that just it looks weird now. but I mean Logan though is just, I mean, it's amazing.
Okay. I will check those out someday.
I think you should. I really think you should.
Okay. All right. You ready?
I'm ready.
I thought you were going to say the same movie because mine's also a 2017 movie called Thor Ragnarok.
Oh.
Yes. Now, did this make your list? I got to ask.
It did not.
Really? Okay. I'm surprised. I thought this would for sure be one of the ones that overlapped. Was it on your list of, you said you had a bunch listed out. Did you even consider this one?
Yeah, it was up there. I tried to limit my list as much as I could from superhero movies from the MCU. Technically, gotcha. Deadpool and Wolverine are both from the Fox Marvel universe, but they're both really their own standalone movies that don't tie into each other really. So
okay,
that's why I allowed those both be on, and I have some other MCU movies on my list.
Okay.
Multiple. So I was
we'll get there. All right.
Thor Ragnarok.
So Thor Ragnarok, 2017 by Taika Waititi, who has become one of my favorite directors. He's filmed and actors. He had a movie called What We Do in the Shadows as a comedy about vampires, kind of living a casual lifestyle. I showed you. It was a pretty funny movie. He directed Jojo Rabbit, which I went to see with my girlfriend. Extremely touching movie. I recommend to anybody to go see that movie.
Yeah,
and he's also... Yeah, so he and then Thor Ragnarok was kind of the first movie I watched that he directed. He's also in it. He plays a very funny character named Korg, who's like this rock alien gladiator warrior, who is just hilarious. He's the nicest rock person I've ever seen. And the guy's he's from New Zealand, I believe.
Yes.
Taika Waititi, but yeah, so here comes Thor Ragnarok. It's the third movie of the Thor franchise, and takes place after Captain America: Civil War, right?
Yeah, it's
or roughly the same
or
time,
around the same time or something.
Right.
Yeah,
and after Avengers: Age of Ultron.
Yes.
So Thor in this movie has a lot of character development. He goes, we watch him at the beginning still being his cocky self. And then, I don't want to say too much here, but some pretty crazy some devastating things happen in his life that kind of causes him to grow up and kind of evolve as a superhero.
Mm-hmm.
So, he has his evil sister comes back, and she's like more powerful than anybody else. Yeah. And he's got to figure out how he's gonna beat her. And I think the coolest part about that is we always think of like Thor's hammer.
It's being part of the character.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mjolnir.
And there's several times in the movie where he's like about to get knocked out, and he just in his head just sees his dad, and boom, yeah, and it just like a quick like kind of zoom in on his dad standing there, and his dad like giving him some like words of advice, saying like basically telling him that he doesn't need his hammer. His hammer does not define him, superhero, and it's just the way they do it is it's great. But the other thing about that film is it's also got a lot of feels like that. It's got a lot of scenarios that kind of get you pumped up, and it's also super funny. I think it's one of the funniest MCU universe movies, probably the funniest.
I'd say it's more of a comedy than
it is a comedy. Yeah. Jeff Goldblum's in it, has a really funny role on this trash planet. It's just Tessa Thompson comes in as a new character named Valkyrie. It's Idris Elba returns as Heimdall. And then we get some Hulk in it too, some Hulk action, which is
bonus.
Yeah. So Thor Ragnarok definitely makes my list. One of my favorite MCU movies. Chris Hemsworth is always killing it as Thor, and
yeah, this didn't make my list, but I do really like this movie for all the reasons you said, and it's also got my girlfriend into the MCU.
Yeah, so that's
Chris Hemsworth's body got her
I kind of use that movie to get my girlfriend into the MCU a little bit.
And it's funny too. It's a funny one. It's got action. So like, there's a lot for people who they're like, oh, superhero movies, I don't want to watch that. And it's just it's good. I think
you're right. I think that's a kind of a good one for somebody who's like kind of on the edge of getting into them, to show them that one and show them how funny they can be and how fun they can be without just being purely, smash. Right. So yeah, for sure. Great movie.
Awesome.
Okay,
on to 6. To the next one, 6.
Yeah, what's your 6?
Is also one of my favorite franchises, and the last 3 have been great, but I picked Mission Impossible Fallout from
I figured one of these was on your list.
And it was directed and co-written by Christopher McGuire. It stars Tom Cruise, Henry Cavill, Ving Rhames, Simon Pegg, and Rebecca Ferguson. It's a great spy movie, and Tom Cruise does I think he does all of his stunts in this movie by himself.
Yeah, that's what's impressed me about Tom Cruise is that
he's in his 50s doing
all this stuff, and they're not like little stunts.
He does a halo jump, which is I forget exactly what that means, but it's a jump from an airplane where it's like a high altitude but anyway, he jumps from an airplane. An actor jumps from an airplane by himself. No special effects needed for that. And they film it. I mean, the other movies too.
I think sometimes like in Hollywood nowadays, like because things can be faked so easily, it can take away from how cool something you see on the screen is.
Yes.
And so when I watch Mission Impossible movies, knowing that he does all that stuff himself, I'm just blown away. And it just makes the movie so much better because, it's like you're actually watching him do it.
Yeah, it adds an element of you being invested in something real. It kind of grounds it for you because you're like, oh, well, of course he could be jumping out of an airplane and landing over there or holding onto that airplane. Of course that could happen. They do whatever in Hollywood. Like we see so many crazy things now that because they're able to do with computers and technology, which is great. Yeah. But then it kind of, makes you not appreciate some things. So I think Tom Cruise what he's doing is awesome. I mean, he's like I said, he's in his 50s. This movie, he broke his ankle jumping from building to building, and they actually kept the scene where he breaks his ankle in the movie. And I mean, he does this thing where he flies a helicopter in this movie.
Yeah, good pick, man.
Top Gun is coming out too, and I don't know if he's actually flying.
So tell me, Is this a sequel to the original, or is it a remake of the original movie?
Sequel. It's a sequel. It's Maverick now. Have you seen the original Top Gun?
Not in a long time, but I remember liking it a lot.
It's a really good movie.
Yeah,
But this one, they're filming. They have cameras in the fighter jets, and the actors are all in there. I don't know if Tom Cruise is actually flying the fighter jet he's in, but he's really in it, and all the other actors they have are really in these fighter jets. Yeah. So you can see them getting hit by G-forces. You can see real environment behind them whooshing by.
Oh man, that's super cool.
I mean, that's Tom Cruise, man. He's trying to elevate film.
He does.
I hear he's a weird guy in real life, but I mean, he kills it in movies.
He does. He really does.
And Mission Impossible Fallout. You need to watch the Mission Impossible movies, and this one I think is the 6th or the 7th. So if you don't want to start back at 1, at least start at Ghost Protocol, Rogue Nation, and Fallout, and you'll still have a good time.
Yeah, good pick, man.
Is it on your list?
No.
Have you seen it?
Yes.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I think so, yeah. The one with Henry Cavill, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh man, the bathroom fight scene, by the way, is freaking sick. And Henry Cavill cocks his arms when he's walking up.
Yeah.
Oh man, that part in the trailer got me hyped.
Oh, when they do it in the trailer and they do the sound effect when he does this, he pumps his fist. It's yeah. It's
Henry Cavill again. Henry Cavill, get on our show. We freaking love you.
Yeah, Henry Cavill, great.
Or Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise would be interesting to talk to. Let's just not ask him about religion or anything.
Nope, we'll still clear that.
Okay.
We won't let him on any of our couches or anything like that.
You ready for my 6?
Absolutely.
This would be Quentin Tarantino's Django Unchained.
Oh man.
What?
Yeah. That should have been on my list.
It should have been. Oh, it's not. 2012. Quentin Tarantino's he's got a very interesting style of filmmaking. If you've seen any of his films, the first one I ever saw was Inglourious Bastards. I've seen them all now. I just watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood the other day, which was pretty good. But Django Unchained by far, I think, is the best one he's done. I think it's the one that feels most like a real movie, like a normal movie. It's, you know what I mean? It kind of it does kind of follow the main characters the whole time, whereas some of his movies sort of jumping back and forth between characters. You're not sure the main characters or not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I thought when I went to see Inglourious Bastards,
main character, really.
Yeah. When I went to see Inglourious Bastards, I thought Brad Pitt was going to be in it the whole time. It kind of felt like he wasn't in it that much. You know what I mean? And they kind of followed the girl who has worked at the movie theater most of the time. Still a good movie. I like that one. But Django Unchained, with Jamie Foxx and Christoph Waltz, Leonardo DiCaprio, Samuel L. Jackson. It follows Django, who is this slave who was bought by Dr. Schultz, who is this dentist turned bounty hunter.
Oh yeah, yeah. And he's German, very German.
Yeah. And basically, they end up going into this plantation where Django's wife was. They had gotten separated. Where Leonardo DiCaprio owns this plantation, and Leonardo DiCaprio's acting is beyond belief in this movie. And same with Christoph Waltz, who plays the dentist. It's just, you got some other people like Jonah Hill appears shortly in it, in the funny KKK scene, which is one of the funniest scenes I think I've ever seen.
Oh man!
They're just arguing about the sacks they're wearing on their heads.
Oh man!
I love how the way they set that scene up. They show all these horses charging, as if they're super organized,
and then the music.
And then they cut to previously where they're talking about the hoods. And I can't see anything out of here. And they just have this stupid argument about the hoods. And it's hilarious. Mm. And so they agree they're going to continue to wear the hoods, even though they can't see anything. And it cuts back to the same horse scene. And they're all just going sideways and not where they want to go. And it's just so well done. But if you're squeamish, don't watch the movie.
Oh.
It gets super bloody.
Movies.
Yeah. But yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio has a scene in the movie where he was like trying to yell, and he was angry, so he hits his hand off the table. He like slams his hand on the table and broke a glass and cut his hand. Not planned, not scripted. And then he like wiped it like on the actress's face.
Yeah, Jamie
Also
Foxx's wife. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Also
who's
not.
playing Jamie Foxx's wife?
I think, is it Kerry Washington?
I think so.
I believe. And then, and none of that was scripted, but everybody kept going with it. And it's just it's a epic scene.
It's like perfect too.
Yeah.
How he carried it off and did it. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
ridiculously awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like most actors would like be like, oh no, stop filming, get this giant cut in my hand fixed. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
I would. I would.
Yeah.
I'd be like, shit.
So yeah, Django Unchained. When I was introduced to Django Unchained in college with my buddies Zach Hale and Bolt. We watched it in their room. We proceeded to watch that movie the next 2 nights, like we would rewatch it, because we liked it so much. So it was.
I agree. Yeah, this was one of the movies, like you were just saying. I watched it in college too. I mean, I think I was watching this the same year that I was watching Deadpool and Mad Max Fury Road. Because again, this one I watched a couple of nights in a row because it is just. I mean, it's so different and cool. And I mean, when Jamie Foxx's character Django is getting trained as a bounty hunter, and their adventures is fun. And then when they finally, get to DiCaprio's plantation, and yeah, there's a couple weird moments. I mean, like that's just what that freaking weirdo. What's the director's name? Sorry again.
Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, he just does. Like I tried to watch Pulp Fiction. It's too many talking, and then there's this one really disturbing scene that I just shut it off. I was like, "Yep, I am done with this." Yeah. Oh, and what's it? The Hateful Eight.
Oh yeah, that movie was boring. I thought,
boring.
That was a kind of a swing and a miss for me.
And the first Quentin Tarantino movie I saw was Inglourious Basterds, and I thought it was going to be about Germans killing Nazis the whole movie, but like you said, this is about other characters and stuff. I mean, I rewatched it after. I think I rewatched it like last year, and now I was expecting it not to be. Like
I think you got to know going into the movie what Quentin Tarantino's what his style is. Otherwise, you're going to be really thrown off.
Yeah,
he's really into dialogue. He's really into that, setting up like in-depth dialogue.
Just multiple characters having almost random interconnected scenes with each other. And
yeah,
I mean, but Django was like the one it's like a continuous thing, even though it's got all these random like sub stories in it, like the bag scene and the plantation and all that stuff. So that's good choice, man. Good choice. Didn't make my list, but good choice.
Well, all right, well, let's move on. Now we're getting to our top 5.
Right. So we are in the top 5, and man, I love this movie. 2018's Creed 2, directed by Stephen Caple Jr.
Is this with
Michael B. Jordan?
Michael B. Jordan.
Yep.
Yeah.
The first one was really good. Written and directed by Ryan Coogler. I mean, man, when the first Creed came out, it was freaking awesome. And they just had this. I related to it because I was a student athlete playing football at the time, and when Michael B. Jordan's character is going off and he's like watching videos about how to be a boxer and all these things. Like I remember like watching videos on other like football players, like the night before a game and stuff. And then 2, it turns into the story about Rocky and his battle with aging and this disease that he has. I mean, great movie. But Creed 2, the one I was just telling you about, it's directed by Stephen Caple Jr. And this one.
Does he direct anything else that I would know?
No, I don't know. I didn't look him up, but I haven't heard anything else. Ryan Coogler did Black Panther.
Okay.
And yeah. But I don't know about Stephen Cable Jr., but I mean, he killed it. Some people say the first one's better. I think the second one is. I think the second one like wraps up Creed. So Creed is the son of Apollo Creed.
Creed, right? Yeah.
The guy that Rocky fought in the first Rocky movie.
Yeah.
That made Rocky famous and made the movies, famous.
Who is now in The Mandalorian.
Yeah. But then so Apollo Creed, in the original Rocky movies, ends up getting killed by Ivan Drago, the big Russian guy, and
making steroids.
Yeah, big steroid Russian dude, who is actually Polish in real life. I think Dolph Lundgren's actually Polish, so everyone's idea of what a Russian is actually a Polish guy. So there's that. But anyway, so Creed 2, though, it's about then Ivan Drago's son, Victor Drago, and his son fighting off Apollo Creed's son, Adonis Creed, and they fight. But I mean, there's so much more to it. I mean, there's all this backstory, about their dads fighting, but also Ivan Drago, after he lost to Rocky in Rocky 5, they kind of explore what happens after that. He's down on his luck, and that's why he's kind of pushing his son to be this champion fighter, and that's why he's trying to have him fight Creed. So his son really doesn't have any stake in this. You feel bad for him because neither of his parents love him. They're just kind of using him for their own gains. And I mean, it's an emotional movie. It's got great boxing scenes, awesome training scene. I mean, Rocky movies always have great training scenes, but the Creed movies have just taken it, made it modern and cool. I mean, I love this movie. I love it.
Cool. Yeah, I'll have to check it out.
I think you should, especially if you're a Rocky fan.
Oh, I definitely enjoy the Rocky movies. They're classics,
Yeah, I rewatched them and the fighting in them. I'm not a pro boxer or anything, but I have been training with a heavy bag for a few years. I watch videos and I watch fights, boxing fights, MMA. So when I went back and rewatched the Rocky movies recently, because I got Tay into the Creed movies, and we were going back through those, and the fights really aren't that good in those movies. And
really?
I can see why everyone kind of knocks on them, but they still got that heart, and they're the original. But the Creed movies have great boxing, great form, and
Michael B. Jordan is becoming a Class A actor. He is. You can definitely tell he's putting in the work, man.
Oh man, he did very well in the first one. He killed it. He did what he needed to do. But I think Stallone kind of stole the show in that one. And this one, I mean, it's his movie. I mean, his scenes are just got so much cool heart and soul in it, man. Cool. He kills it.
All right, nice.
And what's yours? What's 5?
It's probably one you've never heard of.
Nope.
It's called Star Wars: The Force Awakens, Episode 7 by J.J. Abrams, baby. So, I think this one had to be on my list. I love The Force Awakens. I love Rise of Skywalker. I'm just not going to say anything about The Last Jedi. but here we go with Force Awakens, where I know we talked about this when we did the sequels, where I was like, oh no, they're going to make more Star Wars movies. Please don't ruin it. Mm-hmm. I was very skeptical. And then I ended up going to see this movie 3 or 4 times in the theater. It was nostalgic, yet new. And it was, there's some things that were unexpected. It left up a lot of mysteries that made everybody in the Star Wars community super excited, and it kind of reinvigorated the Star Wars community. I loved everything about The Force Awakens. Yeah, there were things I thought that could have been done a little bit better, like I mentioned on the other podcast, the way they presented things. But as far as how the movie affected my life, I think it had to be in my top 5. Being the Star Wars fan that I am, The Force Awakens it really awakened the Star Wars community. You know what I mean?
No, I agree. I think, yeah, it got a lot of Star Wars fans. You know, Star Wars has always been kind of divided. You know what I mean? Because the fans are very passionate. So there's always going to be people that like things, and there's going to be people that don't like things. Very strong feelings, because they're important to people in a lot of ways. So I thought this movie, though, united a lot of people. I think it brought together prequels fans. It brought together original trilogy
fans. Yeah,
fans of animation. I mean, everyone, I think, was into this, you know.
Yeah.
And I think it got a lot of new people into Star Wars too, who had never seen Star Wars, because there's all this hype about it. So like, I guess I'll see this and then watch the other Star Wars movies, or whatever. So it didn't make my list, but I mean, yeah, it was so good. I mean, the only reason it didn't make my list is because everything that it sets up kind of gets wiped away by Rian Johnson.
The Last Jedi. Yeah.
It does. They deliver in The Rise of Skywalker, but
they do.
It's rushed. I still like Rise of Skywalker. I really like the movie. But again, this movie, to me, kind of lost what it would have been. If you would have asked me, you know, before... Yeah, if you would have asked me, it probably would have been one of my favorite movies of all time. But it's kind of lost...
Tainted a little bit from
it's
The Last
tainted
Jedi.
a little bit. It left a bad taste in my mouth after that. You know,
it was just disappointing, and that's not the Force Awakens' fault. That's not J.J. Abrams' fault.
No.
It was just disappointing that all those mysteries that they set up kind of got wiped away.
Yeah.
But that's just it. That's how much the Force Awakens like made us excited for the next movie. I'd never been so excited to see a movie after that. You know what I mean? To see the Last Jedi. You know, so in a way, The Last Jedi was kind of set up for failure.
Yeah, but I still think they could have done better than what they did.
Oh no, Last Jedi.
I think we've said that.
Last Jedi could have been done, just needed to be done completely differently, I think.
Yeah, but Force Awakens, that was the first movie I got to see in theaters with, you know, my brothers, because they're 10 years younger than me almost.
Right. So first Star Wars movie you guys got to see.
Yeah, it's the first movie we got to see together in theaters.
Oh really? Okay, cool.
Yeah, and then, you know, it inspired Rogue One. They were like, okay, we can make Star Wars movies.
So
the first movie I took my girlfriend to for
Rogue
Star Wars.
One was on my list, and it got taken off pretty late, by the way. Rogue One was very close to being on this list. It's just Rogue One is like the perfect Star Wars film. I'll just say that.
It's really solid. So Force Awakens, it's in my top 20 of my list, but it didn't make it in my top 10 because...
By the way, Ani just showed me the show about with the guy who plays what's his name in Rogue One, the bad guy.
Admiral Carrick, is that it?
Yeah.
Krennic?
He plays the main character in this Stephen King show called The Outsiders. It's still coming out. There's only 3 episodes. You'd love it. It's really scary. And he plays I think he plays like the kind of the good character or the main character. And he's killing it in the show. I had to mention that.
Good actor.
So I got all cut up today. Yeah, he's absolutely killing it. So anyway, we'll carry on, but
he was in the Dark Knight Rises as well.
Yeah, he had a minor, major/minor role in that movie.
Yeah, because when I saw Rogue One, I was like, how do I recognize this guy? Yeah. But because he wasn't someone that you really cared about in the Dark Knight Rises. He just got a cool Bane line, though. He got the hand on the shoulder.
Speak of the devil, and he shot. Oh,
do you think this gives you power over me?
Speak of the devil, and he shall appear.
Oh man, great scene.
Great scene. Okay.
You ready to move on?
Yeah, to 4.
All right, so 4. We're getting up there. 4 for me is 2014's Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Oh, this was on my list. I took it off.
Directed by the Russo brothers, Anthony and Joe. Written by the great writers who also wrote a lot of my favorite Marvel movies, Christopher Marcus, Stephen McFeely. It has Chris Evans as Captain America, Samuel L. Jackson,
and Sebastian Stan.
Sebastian Stan,
Winter Soldier,
Robert Redford's in it.
Who became like my favorite Marvel character.
Yeah, this is where he made it. Smoking hot, Scarlett Johansson's in it, and Anthony Mackie.
You're not wrong about that.
And, man, I remember when this trailer was coming out, I was like, that looks like it'll be cool. And I really liked the first Captain America movie. I liked it, but it was kind of missing something in that movie, like to really make it great. But I liked it. I liked like who Captain America was, that he was this pure guy that, was finally given a chance to like be able to physically do all the good that he has in him. And then this one, I mean, it starts out with him on this boat. I mean, just kicking ass. I mean, literally just super soldier kicking ass. I mean, it is
the one with the elevator scene, right?
Elevator scene, man. Oh man.
And then just, I mean, okay, so
this is an awesome action movie.
It is, but it's also got depth to it.
It's a great thriller. Like, again, this could be what makes it so great is this, even if it wasn't part of the MCU, it could be a great standalone, like super soldier action thriller movie because, I mean, it's got it all. And Winter Soldier, like you said, I mean,
the first real time we see him do something awesome. I think this is the first time in the movie he does something awesome is when Captain America starts chasing somebody.
Oh yeah.
And he gets to the roof. He finally has him, and he throws his shield. And you're just thinking to yourself, okay, this guy's done now. And without even hesitating, the guy just immediately turns and catches the shield and stops it with his metal arm. And you're just like, everybody just gasps in the theater.
Yeah. Their fight on the highway is sick. I mean, there's so many just great action scenes in this. I mean, all the hand-to-hand fighting in the Russo brothers movies is just great. And even the Samuel L. Jackson like car scene is like awesome.
That movie is close to being perfect to me too. It almost made my list. I mean, it was it hurt me to take it off my list. This one, it really hurt because it is definitely one of the best Marvel movies I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, it's my favorite standalone movie. Not Winter Soldier. Civil War was close. I was really tossing up.
It was great too.
But it's
Civil War is pretty much an Avengers movie though.
It's an Avengers movie, is what it really is. It's an Avengers
minus Thor, Hulk.
Minus Thor and Hulk movie, and
no, Spider-Man's in it.
But I mean, again, that one they have a really good twist and great fight, real emotional. But
storyline of Civil War is also excellent. But
this one just edged it out for me.
It did.
So Civil War would have been. Civil War could have made my list, but like I said, I didn't want to just have every Captain America movie and every other MCU movie on here. Right. So, but man, great movie.
Yeah, man, good pick. Good pick. Okay, you ready?
I'm ready. What's your 4?
Of the devil, and he shall appear. My number 4, of course, The Dark Knight Rises. 2012, Christopher Nolan. Now, coming after Dark Knight in the performance Heath Ledger did, I didn't think there was ever going to be a movie in that franchise that could even touch it. And I think The Dark Knight Rises did just about, not saying it's better than Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight did not come out in the 2010s, so I couldn't put it on this list.
Man, it would have been on my list.
It would have been number 1. It's my favorite movie of all time. But Dark Knight Rises was as good as it couldn't have been any better to me, I couldn't imagine how it could have been any better. Was this on your list by any chance?
This was not on my list. It was on my top 20 list.
Yeah.
The only reason, some of the reasons it didn't make mine, I remember when I saw it in the theater, it was great. I think this is the best they could have done to wrap up Christopher Nolan's trilogy and Christian Bale's Batman, because the DC wanted to get rolling with their own cinematic universe. So I'm glad. And Bane,
Tom Hardy as Bane, such a good bad guy.
Oh man, they do it. So I mean, there's a lot of great things, but this one doesn't make it for me because there's just there's some little things that are just kind of what? Like what? Batman just completely stopped being Batman at the end of The Dark Knight, which kind of loses.
I can buy that, though. I can buy that.
But it kind of makes the significance of him saying, "Oh, I can take the blame. You can hunt me, set the dogs on me." I mean, that ending of the movie is freaking sick. So then just to hear that he just ended after that, and he's just been a crippled dude, I was like, what? That kind of makes that whole
But then
scene
the
and
crime rates go like way down though, and like everybody got locked up. There wasn't a lot to do, and then Bane started showing up, and then he got right back into it.
yeah, but then he immediately gets broken and he's out from being Bat. So this one, it's a Batman movie with just not enough Batman in it for me. And
I love his scene. His rise scene is like so epic. The symbolism
all of his
of
scenes,
the well and the hole in the ground. Oh man.
but
By
yeah,
the way, Chris,
say some things about this. Is on your list. So what all do you like about it? And
I just love. Oh, Bane. I love how the whole Dark Knight franchise really kind of prided itself on making it feel real. So Bane, who in the like comics like was this like steroid goo filled bad guy, is just a, I don't know, 6'6", 300-pound mercenary beast.
yeah,
Sort of believable that he could be this like a guy that size. He wasn't like abnormally he was abnormally gigantic, but like not fictionally, I guess. You know what I mean?
not like the Hulk. He wasn't
Right.
like that.
So I thought Tom Hardy killed it as Bane. Bane was a very interesting bad guy. He had a lot of good context that they reveal in the movie.
He was
And then
smart
just
too.
kind of wraps up Batman's character, Bruce Wayne, and the metaphor they make. Bane sends Bruce Wayne after he breaks his back to this like giant hole in the ground kind of prison thing. And they do the symbolism of, Batman. The reason why he was afraid of bats was he fell in a well as a kid, and there were a ton of bats in the well. And then they do the same symbolism as he's trying to climb out of this giant hole prison, and the bats fly out, and he's finally like decides, instead of like ducking out of the way, he like stands up, and it like inspires him to make his escape. And it's just, the music again is incredible.
Hans Zimmer.
So, and then the whole end scene, I don't want to say anything. I'm not gonna say anything.
It leaves the potential that they could have done a sequel if they wanted to.
Not that scene, but but yeah, they did. You thought they were going to with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, but maybe like a Robin sequel, but that never, at least it hasn't happened yet. But I'm talking about what they did with the bomb.
Oh yeah,
man.
Oh yeah. So like what you're saying, so Batman get out of the well. The first Batman Begins movie, the first one in the Christopher Nolan trilogy, like the whole theme of that movie, it's very clear that the theme is fear and how different people use fear. Some people use it to fuel themselves, to have something to overcome. Some people use it to scare other people and control them. Some use it as just a complete weapon.
Yeah.
And so that was like a theme for the original Batman movie. So in this one, he keeps trying to climb out of the well, like you said.
Yes.
And he can't because he's using the rope. And they tell him, you need the fear to get out of here.
Fear to make that jump.
You need the adrenaline. You need like a reason. And so that his last jump, then that's when
takes the rope off.
He almost slips, and the bats come out, and just he doesn't have the rope on, like you said, and
feels that fear he had as a kid.
It's the same. It's full circle. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps.
They nailed that. You can't tell me they didn't nail that. You cannot tell me they didn't nail that.
I'm not telling you that. They knocked it out of the park.
Oh man.
It's just the entire movie. It's the beginning part of the movie for me that makes it not on my top 10.
I know you didn't like to see Batman kind of hiding with a beard, and
I didn't like that.
He came back.
He came back.
It didn't take much for him to come back. But he was also like upset about Rachel and everything. He was really. I know.
I don't like it.
Okay, let's go to 3 then. Let's stop talking about it. Let's go to 3. You're gonna get upset.
So we are in the top 3 now.
Oh god.
Top
of
3
the decades, baby.
Of the decade.
Here we go.
So this is mine. This is a real tie.
Okay.
But I'm gonna say John Wick, the original John Wick. And it's a toss up between John Wick and John Wick 3.
I can't put that one on because of the beginning of that movie.
Oh, because of the spoiler alert, the dog that dies?
Yeah. No, it's a great movie. It's a great movie.
Oh man, 2014.
Not just a dog, Steve. It's a puppy.
It's a cute beagle puppy.
Cute beagle puppy.
It's directed by Chad Schlesky and David Leitch. Chad Schlesky, he ended up directing the next 2 John Wicks without David Leitch. It's written by Derek Kolstad, and it stars the freaking Keanu Reeves, man. Keanu Reeves, who's in his 50s and also killing it, doing all these judo, jiu-jitsu, gun work. Watch his training videos on YouTube. It's sick. It was a toss-up between me, John Wick, the original, and John Wick 3. Because John Wick 3 has Halle Berry, Lawrence Fishburne, has all these other actors in it, and there's so much more action. There's like John Wick's using horses to kill people. He's using books to kill people. I mean, John Wick 3 is just, it's the best one. 2 is lukewarm, but the reason the first one for me takes it is because it's the original one. And I remember seeing the trailers for this. I was like, that looks cool. And I was seeing some of the behind the scenes stuff about how they had Keanu Reeves like actually learn jiu-jitsu and judo and some gun stuff. And he's in his 50s, and I liked him from The Matrix. And this was at the time before this movie came out. Action movies were all pretty much PG-13. Most of them were like shaky cam because of the Bourne movies, and so like you can never really see the action very well. So this one came out, and I saw the trailers, and you could see everything. I remember like this was like the first movie you could see everything again. It had long cuts, long takes of John Wick, and I was like, man, it looks sick. And then when I saw the movie, I mean, it's about this hitman whose wife dies, and he doesn't just come back and get revenge, because there's a ton of movies that straight to DVD, that could be like this. I mean, what really makes it is, first off, Keanu Reeves, but also this crazy like underground like hitman universe that they built.
It's pretty cool.
Where they have these coins and these hotels and all these rules, like these proper rules, and I mean, it's just awesome.
It was a good movie.
Yeah, I think I showed you the first one.
You showed me the first one, yeah.
Did you
I haven't seen the third one?
The second one's meh. You kind of have to see it though to see
the third one. Okay.
The third one's just freaking awesome though. I mean,
okay.
It's just awesome.
Yeah, the first one was great. Keanu Reeves, man, that guy.
You
hear great things about him too. You hear great things about that.
But yeah. Keanu Reeves is badass, and he kills a lot of dudes with awesome ways. And I recommend you watching this movie.
Okay.
Anyone who hasn't seen it.
All right.
And your number 3.
Get Out, Steve.
Okay.
No. Get Out by Jordan Peele.
Oh, yeah.
2017. It's awesome. Do you really thought I was telling you to get out?
No, I didn't think. I knew you were getting that.
Here's a movie where when it came out it was getting like 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I was thinking, there's no movie that's that good. It was that good. It was that good when I went to see it.
So tell us some non-spoiler things. I saw it with you. You showed it to me. And this is probably one of the horror movies that I actually like.
Yeah, I guess it's technically a horror movie. I guess I lied to you earlier. I had one more.
Advertised as horror movie.
I would say it's more of a thriller.
I would
Not
agree.
a horror movie, a thriller. How do I sum this up without giving anything away? Well, it starts with an African-American man who has a white girlfriend, and she invites him to her home. And he gets there, and there's 2 African-American housekeepers and yard keepers that kind of are dressed slave-like, I guess. You know what I mean? It's kind of weird. It's like, because it takes place in modern times, right?
Yeah.
And he is kind of weirded out by it, like, and the 2, oh my God, it's such a good story. But the 2 slaves are acting super weird, and he just starts noticing all these kind of strange stuff, and
there's a big.
I can't not spoil anything.
There's a big twist. It's not. So when I saw advertisements for the movie, I just saw the main actor of the movie, like the scene where he's locked up. They would show that, and they just played like random like clips of like things moving around real quick, and just like this get out, get out. Like they had that playing in the trailer. And I was like, oh, so it's like a spooky, like ghost kind of movie is what, I mean, that's what I thought they were advertising as. I mean, when you watch the trailer, that's what it looks like. I don't, have you seen, like, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
But like the movie itself is real. It's not about that at all. I mean, it's, yes, I mean, it's kind of almost a political-ish movie, I guess, too. And
it does kind of cross those lines. Yeah, definitely does. But
it doesn't.
It's
feel
also
too
just a
preachy
good.
to me, though.
It doesn't feel too preachy. No, it's just a good movie.
It's just, a good movie, though. Yeah.
Great twist. And should we spoil it?
Yeah. No. Say.
Okay. Spoiler warning.
Spoiler alert, everyone. Just hit the skip forward button a little bit here.
Yeah. So, the girlfriend, basically, her job in this family was to get black men and date them and bring them back so that the mom could hypnotize them. And then the dad, who was like this crazy neurosurgeon, would like take their brains out and put the brains of like a rich white person
dying rich white
who are dying, or the one guy that there for the main character was a blind guy. He was a blind artist, so he wanted his eyes. He wanted the black eyes, remember? So
yeah, because the main character was like a photographer, right?
Yeah, so they were able to like keep these people living longer by using, and they used black people because their bodies were supposed to be better and more athletic, and better genes. They were saying.
Yeah,
so
that's what these white
people were using. That's why they targeted black men and black women.
Yeah.
So there was a way of them kind of becoming immortal. And the whole family was in on it. And the girlfriend, for most of the movie, you think she's like the sweet girl, and then she goes from being this like pretty girl who's like sweet and like a great girlfriend to like instantly being the creepiest girl ever. Like immediately from the moment where he's like, give me the keys, trying to escape, give me the keys, and she's like, I'm looking for him, and then she's like, and he's like, please give me the keys, and she's just like, these keys. And like, you're just like, you already knew she was bad, but, and then she like pulls her hair back and like wears like all white clothes and drinks milk.
It was, yeah. I mean, it's cool because, I'm not trying to get too political preachy or anything, but I think a lot of people, they try and it shows, white people, they're complimenting black people with this. They're like, oh, you're great, you have great genes, and like one guy, like he says the line that you've heard like a lot of self-deprecating liberal people say is like, oh, I wanted Obama to stay in office. I mean, it's like so patronizing to this guy. He's he doesn't like just identify as someone who's black. He identifies as a person. So I mean, it kind of shows you that even being, if you're trying to make an effort to not be racist, but you're at that point being patronizing. I mean, there's also racist. That kind of thing. Yeah, it's like more racist, and it's weird. So, I mean, it was cool. I mean, it was a cool movie. I thought
you actually enjoyed it because you were nervous to watch it because it was advertised as a horror, and you hate horror movies.
Yeah, I was scared.
Steve does not like to be scared. Steve got scared by the Lion King, so
the live action Lion King.
The live action Lion King.
We need to preface this.
So yeah, okay. So there's my 3.
Whew, oh boy, we're getting up there.
All right.
Number 2. So it's this was already on your list. It's Harry Potter and Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Wow, it really hit that high with you. Cool.
Yes. It came out 2011, directed by David Yates.
I said that earlier. Yeah, directed by David Yates. Yeah. And by the way, I didn't say for Insidious. It was James Wan who directed that. I feel bad I didn't. I shout out all the other directors, but okay. So anyway,
and it was the story. Obviously, the books were written by J.K. Rowling, and Steve Kloves helped write the screenplay for this. But like you said, Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, Rupert Grint. That's the main Harry Potter, Hermione, and Ron Weasley trilogy of characters. I mean, man, this one's up there for me because, I mean, it puts a cap on the movies. I think, this was, the reason they split this up into 2 movies, I think, was in part to make more money. But I think it was also in part because they had to deliver this story. And I don't think I think
you
in
couldn't
one
cut as
movie,
many things out as you could in the other movies with this.
yeah, you really have to have all these subtle Horcrux things and
The
all that.
Horcrux storyline is just so good.
Oh man, I mean it's so good. I mean it's perfect. Like you said, there's no plot holes really in this in this movie trilogy and this saga of a movie and the books. I mean, like you said, I read the books when I was growing up. I remember my mom gave me the first one or the first three, and I was like, I'm not gonna read these. These are dumb. And then I was reading them when I was a kid, and I mean, like I was laughing, I was invested. I mean, like I wanted the next one when it was coming out, and I was like staying up all night trying to read it as much as I could.
Anybody who's actually read them all and watched them that hasn't liked them. You know,
anyone that I hear that doesn't like them, they usually just have a terrible taste in movies. They watch like direct
or I've heard people who were like, oh, I saw the first movie, or oh, I read the first book and I didn't really keep going. It's like, oh man, you gotta keep going. It doesn't start getting.
People have only like seen it on the background and like at like a family get together, a party or something. Well, like oh, I saw parts of it. I wasn't really into it.
It's always good, but like it doesn't start getting like super good until 3 or 4. And then it just gets better and better and better and better and better.
Yeah.
You know.
Because it's about Harry Potter too as he's growing up.
Yeah.
And I was like actually I think I was always Harry Potter's age, like almost throughout the whole time the books were coming out. Because I think I was like 11 when I read the first 3, and then when the next one came out, I was about that age. But by the time like anyway, I was always that age. So like everything about that was always kind of relevant to me, even though it's a grown woman writing about these kids and especially a young boy.
Yeah, but that's the thing with Harry Potter is that even though it's a fantasy world, she's writing about like real themes, man, you know?
Mm-hmm. That's she grounds, like she puts rules on things too. Not as much as like how The Witcher's magic is maybe, but like you can't just conjure up anything, and it's not too spectacular. It's spectacular, but it's not ridiculous. But anyway, definitely Hallows Parts 2. I mean, it's so emotional. I remember being in the theater and it was packed, and I remember there was grown adults like sobbing when Snape was getting killed by Nagini, just like pounded up, and like I was like, oh, I mean like.
Yeah,
people were sobbing, and then how you said, how they executed Snape's reveal in the pensive, even though I had already known it from the books.
Right.
How they executed it, I mean, it was just like, oh man, just heart-wrenching. Him walking on Lily and just the fact that he had always loved her. He'd always been like this good guy, but he had obviously grown up with problems, and he wasn't the same flashy guy that James was.
He was like the ultimate hero, you know?
Yeah. And I mean,
the ultimate hero, dude.
There's so many things. There's
sort of like how in Game of Thrones, Ned Stark was like the ultimate hero.
Exactly.
By making his wife, spoiler, think that he like cheated on her.
Yeah.
Same thing like Snape. Like
he compromised his own honor to.
Snape compromises his own honor to like protect Harry, and it's just epic, man. It's genius.
It's so genius. Many things, and like I said, so I was a fan of the books, I was a fan of the movies. So when I thought they killed it with these movies, and like I was saying, a lot of movies try to copy the setup of Harry Potter did after this. A lot of young adult based movies. They tried to split up the last, one of the saga or whatever the books, and they always had like no substance in the first one, and by the time the second one came around, you didn't care.
Yeah.
And so, but this one, I mean, had a lot of substance in both. But the second one is like where all the heart and payoff is, and I mean, they just killed it. I mean, I could point out some things. I was like, well, that's different than the book, but I mean,
there are, and it kind of sometimes has to be.
All the movies, actors are like perfect for the roles.
They couldn't have cast it any better. I can't imagine how they could have casted it any better.
Voldemort's awesome. I mean, everyone is just perfect.
Yeah.
So that's why it's my number 2, man. I mean, it's a great the whole saga is just perfect.
It is. Yeah, so is that the only movie that we've had on both our lists so far? So far, I think.
I honestly think so, yeah.
I thought we'd have more. To be
Me
honest,
too. I thought
we're not done yet, but like
I was surprised. I mean, I'm surprised. So everyone who's listening to this, man, you are, man, you've got a bonus list. You're really getting like almost 20 movies.
I thought we'd have like
this.
3 or 4 overlaps. So
I thought we'd have more.
More of that. Anyway, so my number
awesome.
2. My number 2. Do you have any idea what it is? It's a 2019 movie. Any clue?
Start with A.
With an A?
Yeah.
No.
I don't know then.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. But it's not that. It starts with a J.
Oh.
Joker.
Nice.
Joaquin Phoenix. And we did our first episode on this. So we've already talked about it a lot. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about it.
Yeah, but say why you liked it a lot and sum it up. And
oh, man. Well, the acting performance by Joaquin is just, he's winning right now. He's winning all the awards for it. And I'd be surprised if he didn't win the Oscar for Best Actor. He's won the Golden Globes. He's won the SAG Award for it. It's just a really great backstory to a character that a villain that everybody loves, the Joker, one of the most famous, iconic comic book villains of all time, and it's kind of a unique story, but also just make a very thought-provoking movie. Walking Out really makes you talk about mental health and things like that, and I just Todd Phillips does a great job of playing with your emotions in the movie. And I think that's like what film is really supposed to do, you know?
Yeah.
You know, and some people like go in the movies like, oh, I don't want to feel like that. I don't want to feel uncomfortable watching a movie. Well, I don't know. That's what theater's always been about, getting these emotions that you would not normally feel in your everyday life, and kind of getting them out in a closed environment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think the Joker, I hadn't seen a movie that had done that and had captivated me that much in a long time.
Agreed.
And so, you know, Heath Ledger made the Joker one of my favorite characters in general, and then to see it executed so well by Joaquin Phoenix was just awesome. So, you know, the movie's winning a lot of awards right now. The soundtrack was amazing. So that's why I put Joker number 2 on my list. I think it definitely, and not only was it number 2 on my list, it became one of my favorite movies I've seen of all time. So.
Is that your number 2 movie of all time?
No, I wouldn't say number 2 of all time, but it's up there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess since Dark Knight isn't on this list, but yeah, I mean, it just barely missed my list. It was literally number 11 for me when I had it written out. I mean, Deadpool just beat it out. Joker.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, I really love Joker, and like you said, I mean, it's thought-provoking, and a lot of movies I like because they're escapism, as in you go there, something satisfying happens, you enjoy it, you have great emotional moments, you might not have to think too much about what characters are doing and what they're saying, but I think movies like Joker and how recently we were just talking about Get Out, you know, they're movies that some people might have problems with because, but the reason that
those movies end up being more controversial for sure.
They get you thinking though, and that's what, you know, that art form is supposed to be about at times. And
absolutely.
I thought Joker knocked it out of the park, man. I really like that movie, and the more I look up about it, the more I see him, like the more I like it. But
it's really a work of art.
Got beat out from other movies I enjoyed.
Make your list. It's understandable. I mean, you got a great list there. So
you also have a great list.
Oh, thank you.
And I am excited to see what your number 1 is,
I think
man.
we should say our number 1 at the same time and just see what happens.
Okay. So our number 1
in 3, 2, 1. Avengers Infinity War.
Oh,
yes. I thought you were going to say Endgame for a second.
So it's a toss-up. I mean, it's such a close toss-up. But what do you think? What are your thoughts? Endgame, Infinity War.
I like Infinity War better than Endgame. Endgame's awesome, don't get me wrong.
No, yeah.
But Infinity War, I mean, how can you make a movie with so many characters that are main characters, and have it flow that well as Infinity War did? Avengers Infinity War, by the way, came out in 2018 by Anthony and Joe Russo, the directors.
It was written by the same guys who wrote Civil War and Winter Soldier too. The best
of MCU movies.
Yeah, Christopher Marcus, Steve McFeely. I mean, genius.
And then, yeah, and you have this bad guy who you can see where he's coming from. So it's not just this super evil guy. And I liked that aspect of him. Was he evil? Yeah, he was a bad dude, but he had his motives, and his motives, in his mind, you could see where he was coming from.
And I think even a lot of our minds, you can rationalize it. And
yeah, he was a kind of guy, like, he believed that the ends justified the means. So he believed that by, spoiler alert, Thanos believed by collecting all the Infinity Stones, snapping and wiping out half of all life forms in the universe, that it would be better for, the future generations of beings. And he was already doing this, but he was doing it kind of manually by going to each planet and doing it.
And committing genocide through war.
And his way of getting the Infinity Stones and doing this was a mercy in his mind.
He wasn't violently killing anyone.
Yeah, so it was almost like I'm not saying I agree with Thanos, but it really kind of
anytime I get stuck in traffic, I just start snapping
anytime
my
I'm like
fingers.
in line at Chick-fil-A and I'm like, oh, I gotta get that
we don't
spicy
need half
deluxe.
these people.
Just want to snap my fingers. And so why do I like it better than Endgame? Endgame was great. There are a few things I didn't like about Endgame. I didn't like what they did with Thor's character. I didn't think it was necessary. And other than that, actually, Endgame was pretty awesome. And also, the timeline thing kind of worried me about Endgame. I thought the timeline concept was cool. It was not exactly what I expected them to do. I did expect them to go do a time jump back in time, but I didn't expect it to be the way it was. So I thought that was cool. It was still like everybody had their theories, but it still kind of threw everybody off guard. But it worried me going forward that like there was going to be this new dimension of Marvel films that was going to be really confusing. Because I was a little confused about the time thing after I watched Endgame. I was a little confused about like, well, how can they go back in time and like that stuff didn't change, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, and they explain it as like when they go back in time, it's its own branch. Yeah. So that their own timeline is
one time
unaltered.
Yeah. Right.
But they are now altering other branches of time. Right. So that was really cool. And like you said, the Thor thing, when I first saw it, I was kind of like they just made Thor the most badass character.
Infinity War. So I talked earlier about how Thor Ragnarok, he like became a better superhero. He peaks in Infinity War.
He peaks.
Yeah, he does.
He's on the up in Ragnarok, and he peaks in Infinity War.
Dude, when he shows up in Wakanda and has Stormbreaker, which is also the fact that it was made out of part of Groot's arm, was just epic. God,
so freaking sick.
That's probably the best moment in the MCU. I'm going to go ahead and say that. It's probably the best moment in the MCU.
Yeah, I can't think of anything that provoked such a response for me. I remember because the three of us, Josh,
the whole theater erupted.
Yeah, but do you remember when the three of us went when we saw Infinity War? I was sitting next to this other guy, and pretty much anytime Thor did anything cool, I was kind of moving around. But when he blasted down, the axe came down, then he's like, "Bring me Thanos!" and he's jumping. Like I had like hit this kid that was next to me.
Yeah, you did.
And
I remember you. I think I was sitting next to you. I can't remember. But anyway, I remember you in the beginning, like the opening scene when Loki goes, "We have a Hulk."
Yeah.
And Hulk just runs out and starts fighting with Thanos. I remember you got out of your seat. We had the rail in front of us, and you were like, your butt was off the seat, standing up and like back down in, and you were just like, oh. You were like out of control.
Oh man. I mean,
dude, do you remember when Thanos just starts just Floyd Money Mayweathering? Dude,
yeah.
He just let him have his fun, says his one of his children.
You know, the children of Thanos, right?
Yeah. And Hulk's like, you think Hulk's beating him up, and Thanos just starts just laying jabs into the abs and like makes it look so easy. So Thanos had been like teased throughout the MCU. He'd been kind of shown in the after credit scenes, really been behind a lot of the big Avenger attacks, you know. And then to finally see him in action was just awesome. And he's just a character that you can like. It's not just an evil guy that you can hate. It's almost like when he in the movie, one of the best scenes in the movie, when he throws, spoiler alert by the way to anybody, when he throws Gamora, his daughter, well, his stolen daughter, his kidnapped daughter, off of to get the Soul Stone, and you see like it's not just an easy thing for him to do.
Mm-mm.
He's like in so much pain doing that, and then the music's great. And then just the way the movie ended. I've never seen a movie end like that. Well, I mean, we knew. Did we know there was going to be a part 2 when we saw Infinity War?
Yeah.
Okay, so we knew there was going to be a part 2,
but we had no idea what they were going to do. I did not expect it to end that way. I think we all expected someone to die.
Yeah.
I think we were all expecting either Cap or Iron Man to die in the first one.
And then Iron Man gets stabbed, and it's like.
And it was shocking. I was
like,
holding my breath.
But I was like, okay, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Like I knew this was going to happen. I prepared myself, and then he didn't die. It was like, and then everybody else did. Like
the exact opposite of what everyone thought was going to happen.
Doctor Strange, Peter
Black
Parker,
Panther went.
Spider-Man, Black Panther, Groot, right? Groot.
Yeah, Groot went. Yeah.
Not Rocket.
All the Guardians except Rocket went.
Except Rocket. I mean, my God,
it was nuts.
I
mean, as a standalone movie, Infinity War beats Endgame.
I think so,
because it has a beginning. At the very beginning, you are just like entranced by Thanos.
Do you remember how silent the theater was at the end of that movie?
Yes.
I've never heard like such a dead silence that like everyone died, and Cap's like, what did Cap say? Like, what have we done or something? Or like,
yeah, I don't know, but he's just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's like he just said something like that.
Yeah. And he just like falls in defeat.
Yeah, they're all just like, well, we lost.
Yeah. Scarlet Witch is gone. Oh, and the best moment of Infinity War, like one of the best moments too. This movie is filled with amazing moments. When you think, it's just a heartbreaking thing that Scarlet Witch has to blow up the stone and kill her boyfriend,
Yeah.
And it's just that itself was heartbreaking, and she succeeds. And Thanos is just like, oh man, that sucks. Oh no, whatever am I going to do? And he just says the awesome line. And what does he say? He goes, now is not the time to mourn, right?
Now is no time at all.
Now it's no time at all. And he takes, and you just remembered he had just gotten the time stone. And like we should have seen that coming, right?
Yeah.
But like nobody did.
No,
he just turns the time back, and he just rips that stone out of the skull. And it was just like,
oh man. So yeah, she just has this moment where she has to kill someone she loves to protect the universe.
Yeah.
And so that's why you're like, well, this is the end then, I guess.
Yeah.
And he can't get it. He can't win, because you're like, it was such an emotional, powerful scene, holding Thanos back, who has
all the Avengers doing everything they could.
Yeah.
And none of them stand a chance.
And she's killing Vision, and then so you're like, well, I guess Vision's done, and he can't get that, But then he's just like, yes, I can.
Dude, when Captain America is just holding Thanos, just holding it open, and Thanos, Thanos goes and he just Floyd Money Mayweather's.
Floyd Money Mayweather.
Captain America, and like, oh man, dude. Just the whole movie's epic, perfect movie in my mind. And that, I will say, Dark Knight had always been my favorite, still is my favorite, but Infinity War will always be very close. It's my favorite movie of all time. Never thought I would say that about like a pure superhero movie, like a Marvel superhero movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously Dark Knight's a pure superhero movie, but a Marvel one, because I wasn't super into Marvel until I met you guys. And for Infinity War, just...
I think that's what got you into the MCU. I think we've talked about this, is you saw the trailer or something for Infinity War,
and
Thanos' character kind of interested you, I think.
And I think it was better to see them all in a short period of time, and then go see Infinity War.
That was fun when we went through them all. We're watching them again, and then we went through, because it was...
I showed it to my girlfriend, who loved it, and she went to see Endgame and loved it. She cried. She cried in Endgame.
Endgame was more emotional for me. That I teared up when
but
Iron Man died and Cap
did
went.
some things I just didn't like that they did.
Some of the
I think
best
that's why
moments are in that too, where Cap picks up Thor's hammer. I mean,
yes,
that was
awesome.
Amazing.
That was amazing. And the theater just cheered.
It's
so much fun to go to the theater when it's packed like that on opening night, and
oh yeah,
people are reacting like you're actually there, and like
yeah.
When Cap picks up the hammer, that is one of the best moments. And I'll say this: Captain America had never been one of my favorite characters in the MCU until until Endgame.
Really?
Oh, I always liked his movies. I thought his movies are great, and I liked him. He never really like got me super excited until this movie when he now his dynamic with him and Bucky have always made me excited.
Mm-hmm.
Like in Civil War when he's like, I can do this all day against Iron Man, and that's what he said to the bullies that were beating him up. Yeah, in Captain America: The First Avenger. It was super well done. So I think his character is amazing. I think his biggest superpower, besides having superhuman strength, is he's never going to give up. So the scene where in Endgame where he's standing by himself against Thanos' whole army, was just with a broken shield, already been just crushed, but he was still going to fight them.
Yeah, he's still going to do it. I mean,
and then obviously the scene where everybody shows up. Perfect.
There's some nitpicky things I have with the movie, but I think Endgame is the best ending to a saga. To me, this Avengers Infinity War saga of the MCU was our generation's or this decade's Lord of the Rings. It was this decade's equivalent of Star Wars. It was, I
think it was awesome to have a movie like Infinity War where the bad guy won.
Yeah.
How often do you have a movie where the bad guy wins at the end?
Well, that's what makes Empire Strikes Back so good. That's what makes a lot of other The Dark Knight. That's what makes it good.
Yeah.
Is it the bad guys kind of win?
They kind of win.
And
but the good, Dark Knight, the good guys kind of win too.
Yeah, and it's
when you think of the big picture, the bad guy kind of got what he wanted.
Yeah.
Well, sort of. You're
right. The good guys kind of frame it in a way, and it's really how you perceive it, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
But this one, hands down, Thanos wins.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
So, from beginning to end, it's so quick paced. You're never bored. I wasn't bored in Endgame at all, but it has slower parts.
It does have slower parts, yeah.
But I love
Infinity War parts. Is just beginning to end thrill ride. No stopping, no slowing down. Mm-mm. But it doesn't feel rushed.
Not at all.
You could sort of compare Rise of Skywalker, which, by the way, is an honorable mention on my list, to Endgame because it is a movie that also wraps up the Star Wars universe and that trilogy. But that one, and here's a movie that's got a bunch of different characters and has a lot to do. It didn't flow well.
No.
Infinity War flowed super well, even with all those characters. Somehow, I still don't know how they did it, but
it's the writers and the directors, man. Yeah, the Russo brothers and the Marcus and McFeely guys, those writers and directors, man. I want them to work on a Star Wars movie. I want them to work on, they, as far as subverting expectation, that's the way to do it.
Yes, they did an excellent job. Yeah, phenomenal. So I wondered where Infinity War was going to be, and then I also wondered if you're going to do Endgame over Infinity War, but
it's a toss-up.
I think it's a toss-up, but to me, Infinity War definitely has the edge. As a movie, a standalone movie itself.
Yeah, by itself.
I also wish that they gave Bucky the shield. I wish Cap gave Bucky the shield. I wish things like that.
They're going to be having that little spin-off series.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Falcon and Winter Soldier. And I saw some images. It looks like there's going to be a Captain America-looking character. It's not Captain America, but it looks like they might have found someone else.
I've heard that one of them becomes the new Captain America.
Yeah, but this is a different guy.
Oh,
it's
really?
not Sebastian Stan or Falcon.
Interesting.
It's this other guy who's wearing Captain America uniform, red, white, blue. I think he's like a soldier for the government, though. And so I think that's something that's going to somehow play into it. I don't know. I saw it on Instagram.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I wish Bucky got the shield, but I think it comes down to he's always had this kind of dark past. And
yeah,
I watched Endgame again recently, and because it's on Disney Plus, and when Cap is about to travel back into time, he kind of gives a look at Bucky, and like you can tell they've already talked about the plan, about what Steve Rogers is going to do, what he plans to do, and I think that's why. I mean, I wish we could have seen that scene. I wish we could have saw it and felt it, but I mean, the movie would have just went on forever.
If the movie was a 3-hour movie. It was the first 3-hour movie I think I ever saw. Like, it was actually 3 hours.
Yeah, I think,
and it did not feel like 3 hours.
I think the Lord of the Rings movies, I think they're all over 3 hours.
Are they all but the original cuts?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I take it back then.
I think because I watched those on Netflix and they're still on there. I'm pretty sure Return of the King.
I don't think
like
I ever saw any of those in the theater.
No, I didn't see those in the theater either. But that was so. Yeah, this is the first 3-hour movie I've seen in theaters.
That's a little different, you know.
No, yeah.
You can always pause it or go to the bathroom or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to watch a movie in a theater is like, it's a different beast. But all right, man. Wow, we had a match.
Yeah, there was. So we had what, like 2, I think.
Yeah, but one that was actually in the same spot on the list.
Yeah, Harry Potter, and yeah, we just had the match of Infinity War.
Cool.
All right, so that's our top 10.
The decade
of
definitely
2010
throw in
to 2020.
Some honorable mentions that you just didn't get to put on the list.
Yeah. Let's start with you.
No, you go first.
All right.
I already said Rise of Skywalker.
All right. So how are we doing? 3?
Just throw a couple out there.
All right. Yeah. So a few honorable mentions for me was Skyfall, the James Bond movie, Fast 5 from the Fast and Furious movies, 1917.
Yes. Which, okay, technically did that come out in 2020 or 2019?
So it had select releases in America December 26 or something. Because I was looking up, I was like, when does it come out? And Google kept telling me that day. And I was looking up tickets, and I was like, it's not out yet.
No, I was in select theaters, so I guess technically it was released in 2019.
Technically, it was. And at least in our part of the country, though, it didn't come out until January. So
yeah, we'll probably do an episode on that, huh?
I think we could.
We should. Yeah, because we both just saw 1917. Great movie. I'm gonna have that as a honorable mention too. Now that since it did come out in 2019.
Yeah. What other honorable mentions do you have?
So I said Rise of Skywalker. I really liked the way that movie kind of wrapped up that and kind of salvaged that Star Wars trilogy. Endgame was an honorable mention of mine, which we just talked about at length. And then, which other one was I going to say? Oh, I think I had The Hobbit. The first Hobbit movie was up there. And that's all that come to mind right now. Oh, and I had the one that was on your list, Winter Soldier, was on my list too. That was on my honorable mention list.
Nice. Do you want to get into disappointments now?
Yeah, let's just throw a few disappointing movies, the ones that we watched in the last decade that just did not live up to expectations or were just terrible movies.
Yeah.
So you ready for, let's just say our first one at the same time. You ready?
Star Wars, The Last Jedi.
The Last Jedi, yeah. So obviously we've talked, if you want to hear more about why this was disappointing, watch our sequel Star Wars episode we did. But overall, I talked about how Force Awakens was on my list. It left up so many mysteries about who these characters were, and The Last Jedi just kind of brushed it all under the rug, and we never got answers. And I'd say that's why it was most disappointing to me. When you watch the movie the second time after knowing that the stuff's not going to be revealed, it's not as bad. And I'm not going to say so. It's got some of the most beautiful scenes in the Star Wars universe in it. Some really cool moments, but what they do with Luke Skywalker was extremely disappointing, kind of making him grumpy and kind of having him having given up on the fight was extremely disappointing. So I just wish they could go back and have done it differently. But I think Rise of Skywalker definitely salvaged it. But that movie was very disappointing when I saw it in the theater.
Yes.
Do you want to add anything to that?
No, I 100% agree. I mean, again, like you said, I think if you're interested in our thoughts about The Last Jedi, check out our podcast or our YouTube video on the Star Wars sequel trilogy for the Screen Chronicles. I put the time marks in the description so you can see exactly what we thought about The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
But it's to me, it's not a terrible movie. It's not terrible. It's a disappointment.
But it was a disappointment. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
It's not just because of my expectations. It's because of, like what you said, they just decided to not deliver on some things and instead try.
I would also argue that the movie didn't flow well either.
Didn't flow well. A lot of things didn't make sense. A lot of rationale behind things just didn't make sense. And to me, I was just kind of like, man, I think I just didn't like a Star Wars movie when it ended.
And I was in denial about it.
I was.
Can't not have liked a Star Wars movie.
I was trying to watch things and try and look up Rian Johnson's ideas, and I was like, maybe I do like it, but
and I like how Rian Johnson's a director that likes to throw audiences off. I like that. That's his thing. I just think it was a poor choice to have him do that in the middle of a trilogy that already had a storyline going that people wanted to see play out.
Yeah.
Okay. You ready for my next one?
I am.
Man of Steel.
Ooh.
Man of Steel was on I was pretty disappointed in that movie. And part of it was because going into it, so when it was advertised, it was shortly after Dark Knight Rises came out. And they were advertising, Zack Snyder directed it, right? But they were advertising that Christopher Nolan, who had done the Dark Knight trilogy,
he had directed the Dark Knight trilogy.
He had directed he was producing it, right?
He was producing Man of Steel now.
Man of Steel. So everybody, I think, and then when the trailer came out, it looked like it was going to be a similar kind of vibe to Dark Knight, kind of a realistic vibe. And I was like, they're going to do, I love Superman. This is going to be great. Making it like a realistic vibe. And to me, like, I didn't really get anything out of that movie. I think it was awesome seeing his dad, seeing his home planet. I think Henry Cavill kills it as Superman. I thought he was great, but I kind of hated the end battle scene where they're destroying the entire city. I thought it was kind of stupid because they were like emphasizing him saving the couple, like the family at the end by.
Good thing he saved those two people from a
instead of
death.
And don't even bother worrying about the thousands that you just died because you threw a guy through a building, caused the skyscraper to collapse. You know what I mean? So it was like, I don't know. That was kind of disappointing, but I think it was partially because my expectations were so high, being that Christopher Nolan was producing it. So I was like, I saw his name and I was like, well, this has to be good. But I think it's just hard to make a good Superman movie.
I think it can be done, though. I really do. If you take like the same sort of heroic ideas from like a Captain America movie, or there's movies sometimes where, because Superman's all good, he's all powerful, you really can't change him, but you can still put him in a story where other characters around him change, or where he's so good that even though all these things are happening, negative things are happening, that he doesn't change, but he ends up changing his world. You know what I mean?
Right.
But in this one, yeah, like you said, Man of Steel is, I don't have on my disappointment list necessarily. It was kind of disappointing, but there's no real clear thing what they wanted to do with Superman. They're like, the S means hope, but in the end, he kills a guy and he just screams. He's like, I killed a guy. He brings down the city, and it's just like, but
it doesn't feel like he won.
No, like at the end, you're like, is this a sad ending? Yeah. And I
thought Kevin Costner killed it as his dad.
Yeah.
I like the beginning of the movie a lot better, I think.
Ma Kent kills it too. The scenes on Krypton are cool.
Russell Crowe.
But Russell Crowe is his other dad.
But yeah, so I wouldn't say it was a horrible movie. Same with The Last Jedi. I was disappointed though. It was a big disappointment for me when I went to see it. All right.
I like the action in it though. That was the first time like you saw some real good Superman fights. But like you said, like when they just start destroying the city, you're just kind of like, what?
Yeah.
So, but my disappointment going off of that thread is Batman versus Superman.
Okay.
Because again, Superman's kind of this dark, mopey character. and Batman is just a straight up serial killer in this movie. I mean, he is just killing guys with his car. He's freaking branding people. It's just, I mean, his fight in the warehouse, I think I showed you, is sick. But he also, like, he kills guys with grenades and stuff, and it's just like,
yeah. And I get there are some Batmans in the comics that are like that.
Yeah, but
I prefer the ones that choose not to use guns.
Yeah, the thing is, so Batman himself in this movie doesn't carry guns, even though his car does, his jet does, right. And it's like, why? I mean, if we're going for a Batman that kills, why wouldn't he have guns? Why wouldn't he just have like a Tony Stark level of armor where he can just bam, 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 shoot, mow guys down? Why does he have to fist fight? Right. You know what I mean? If he's full lethal. So the reason behind Batman not killing not only is great for like his motivation and character, but it also makes sense that's why he has to fight hand to hand. That's why he has to use all these other cool gadgets. Yeah. Because if he's fine with killing, then why would he have a thing that disarms guns with magnets? Why wouldn't they just be magnetic grenades that just blow up the dudes?
Right.
Why wouldn't he just set a missile to that floor? You know what I mean? Like, it just at that point it just makes you think, like, question his rationale then. So I was really disappointed by that movie. I went with my brothers and I was just kind of like, did he just kill that guy with his car? And then he just straight up kills the guy with his car. To like, yep, I'm done. I'm done. And the whole Martha scene. So anyway, your next one.
Okay, so this one is not only disappointing, but also one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It's a comedy by Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly called Holmes and Watson. Did you ever see this?
Nope, but you told me about it.
Well, I didn't even like look at the reviews. I went like one of the first nights it opened because I'm like, first of all, I love Sherlock Holmes, I love Will Ferrell, and I love John C. Reilly. I feel like when they're together, they kill it. I mean, Step Brothers, Talladega Nights, like they're hilarious.
Yeah.
So the trailer looked pretty funny, because it looked like it was in the style of Robert Downey Jr.'s Sherlock Holmes movies, where they like showed him calculating everything in his brain. So it's like, oh, it's gonna be funny because they're actually gonna be really bad and inept at everything. So it was, the whole movie was just them like screaming the whole time. I don't remember laughing like at all. I think there was like one funny moment, and the rest of it was just like really cringy and like Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly just yelling like really loudly.
Oh man!
I mean, it had a great cast. It had the guy who plays Voldemort.
I think Ralph Fiennes is his name.
Ralph Fiennes or something. Yeah. He played Moriarty, and I thought, oh yeah, this movie's gonna be great. I think it got a 4% on Rotten Tomatoes. It was really bad. Man, that was one of the worst movies I ever saw. By the way, it reminds me of one of my honorable mentions. By the way, The Other Guys is an honorable mention. Yeah,
Other Guys is good too.
That movie is so quotable and so
it's a really
super funny.
Movie.
Good Will Ferrell movie. Mark Wahlberg. So that's an honorable mention. Almost made my list. Okay.
And on that note, Sherlock Holmes movies. Now you got me thinking.
Yeah, good honorable mentions.
Good honorable mentions too. Anyway, for another disappointment for me is the 2014 Hercules movie with The Rock. I mean,
I never saw this.
He was promoting it on his Instagram. He had done Fast Five. I loved Fast Five with him in it. But I think this movie, he might have influenced too much. He kind of got a lot of his movies could actually make my disappointment list, because I think he kind of takes control and tries to, really make the movie about him and more about like this caricature of The Rock in real life, this kooky, funny guy that works out, instead of like a defined character. And but anyway, Hercules, I thought was going to be this epic action movie with him fighting the monsters. I think he does like 12 labors is like the mythology behind. And I was like, oh, we're going to see this. And The Rock, this big dude, is going to be Hercules. Not some like little dude that worked out for 3 months and got abs, but some big dude is going to be Hercules. And he had the lion hat on, and but in the movie, it turns out he was a phony. He didn't actually do any of the 12 labors with any of these monsters. In the end, he ends up doing some cool physical feats, but like there's no like cool mythology. I kind of wanted like a almost like 300 level of like mythology and Greek and cool scenes, but this one was just I don't really know what it was going for.
Yeah.
It was
When did 300 come out?
I don't know. I think before 2010 though.
That's my guess,
But if it was in 2010s, that would have made my list because it's freaking sick.
2006, yeah, it's a sick movie. Yeah, okay.
It's not terrible, but it was. I watched it and I was like, that didn't deliver anything that it advertised or that I wanted.
Yeah,
and so yeah.
Okay. So those are our disappointments of the decade.
Yeah, let me just.
I don't know why that reminded. What did you say?
Let me just say a few complete crap movies, so no one watches them. Because I know people sometimes watch things on Netflix and they're like, "Oh, let me try this out." But there's a movie called Netflix's Murder Mystery. It has this guy from the Goldbergs in it. It's the worst freaking movie I've ever seen in my life. Don't watch it. There's also this Netflix like Deer Hunter movie with Josh Brolin in it, and oh man, is it crap. Both of those movies, I was at home and my family wanted to watch some movie on Netflix. My mom was like, oh, that looks like it'll be funny. And I'm like, no, Netflix movies typically suck. We should not watch this. So we put it on. She falls asleep. We're left watching this terrible freaking movie. Oh man, don't watch either one of those movies I just said.
It's not like you could stop.
No, because oh man, they were just terrible. Terrible. The worst things.
Oh, a lot of really bad scary movies too. I feel like it's a lot of really cheap, bad scary movies.
Oh man, they're just I don't know. Anyway, so that's all of our.
It reminded me of an honorable mention that I feel bad I didn't say yet.
What?
Moana.
No.
Seriously, you see it?
No.
This is awesome, dude.
Tough decade with movies, man. A lot of movies.
Good movies. Moana and the soundtrack to Moana was. I still listen to the soundtrack by Lin-Manuel Miranda.
I'll try and watch it sometime.
You should watch it. I think it's on Disney Plus, right? So
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, give it a watch. That it's awesome. It's a really good movie, and it's just got some really good themes too in general that a lot of people can relate to nowadays. So,
well, then I'll watch it.
Okay, fine. All right. Anything else to add to our top decade list?
No way, but
coming up, I think we'll probably start covering things like The Mandalorian. We're going to have an episode about our top 10 television shows coming up. And we're going to do an episode about 1917. Anything else we're going to be doing coming up?
I mean, eventually we're going to get around to The Last Kingdom.
Yeah, we got to do that soon, too.
We don't know when we're going to schedule that, but that's definitely going to come out.
Yeah, absolutely. So on that note, Alexander Draymond, where you at, man?
Where you at?
On our show and talk to us about anything.
Even if you just want to come on just to tell us, stop tagging me in all your posts, that's fine.
That is fine.
That's fine.
Cool, man. That's cool. But come on.
But man, we are genuine fans of the show, and yeah, I mean, get on our show and we can talk about anything. You want to make a top 10 list of whatever you like? We could do that too.
Yeah, anything you like.
Yeah. But I mean, so yeah, I think that was pretty solid. If like you said, we're going to be doing another episode on our top 10 TV shows from 2010, 2020. So this decade.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was our top 10 movies of the decade.
If you haven't seen them, go check them out. And yeah.
We also have episodes, we talked about Star Wars. We got all 3 trilogies covered that we talk about. We talked about Joker.
And we got an episode about The Witcher.
And The Witcher, too. That series should be out there. So check them out. We're on Podbean. The Screen Chronicles. We're on
Find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah. So, yeah, thanks for listening. And
see you again.
We'll see you again.